The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the UES Thunderchild as Captain Emily Barnes gripped her command chair. Her blue eyes narrowed at the main screen, where 3 alien ships surrounded a small human mining colony on New Hope. "Play that distress signal again," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant David Wilson's fingers moved quickly across his console. A scared voice filled the bridge. "This is New Hope Colony. They're blocking all our ships. They say we're under quarantine, but they won't tell us why. We have families here. Please, anyone." Captain Barnes stood up, her short brown hair catching the red emergency lights. "Status of the alien vessels. 3 Council peacekeeping ships, Captain." Maria at Tactical reported. "Their weapons are powered up, but shields are at minimum. They don't see us as a threat." That was their first mistake. The Thunderchild had been humanity's pride for the past 5 years, the fastest and strongest ship Earth had ever built. But now, it looked like they would have to prove it. "Open a channel," Barnes commanded. The screen flickered to life, showing a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes. The council member looked down at them with clear disgust. "Human vessel, this area is now under council control. Your species has been deemed too aggressive for membership. Return to your home system immediately." Barnes took a step forward. "This is a legal human colony with 300 civilians. You have no right to blockade it." The alien's upper eyes blinked. "We have every right. Your species wages war among themselves. You build weapons before schools. The council has spoken. Comply or face consequences." As the alien spoke, Wilson's console beeped quietly. He turned to his captain, keeping his voice low. "Captain, I'm picking up some strange readings. They're scanning our databases, trying to hack in through the communication channel." Barnes gave a slight nod, but kept her eyes on the alien. "And if we refuse? Then you will learn why the Council has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years, the alien said. Wilson's hands flew across his console. "Captain, I've broken through their security. You need to see this." He sent the data to her personal screen. Barnes read quickly, her face growing darker with each line. The Council hadn't just decided to quarantine humanity. They had a list of 17 other aggressive species they had contained over the past 1,000 years. Species that had eventually disappeared from all records. "They're not keeping us out," Barnes whispered. "They're keeping us in. Until they can deal with us permanently." The council member was still talking, listing their violations of galactic law, when Barnes cut the transmission. She turned to her crew, her voice firm and clear. "Listen up. What I'm about to do might start a war, but they're planning to destroy us anyway. At least this way, we fight back." She sat in her command chair. Battle stations. Red alert klaxons blared as the crew rushed to their positions. The Thunderchild's engines hummed to life, its advanced systems powering up. "Ma'am," Chief Engineer Robert Hayes called from engineering. "Whatever you're planning, the engines are ready. Just don't scratch my paint job." Barnes allowed herself a small smile. "Tactical, target their engines only. Let's show them why humanity survived its own wars." The Thunderchild moved with surprising speed for its size. Before the Council ships could raise their shields to full power, the human vessel was among them, its weapons blazing with precise bursts of energy. "Direct hits," Maria reported, grinning. "Their engines are offline. All 3 ships are dead in space." Barnes opened a channel to all ships, including the colony. "This is Captain Emily Barnes. The colony is under Earth Fleet protection now. Any hostile action will be met with extreme force." She paused. "And to our council friends, when you report this, tell your leaders that humanity won't be contained. We won't be erased like the others. We fight back." As the council ships floated helplessly in space, Wilson worked through their databases. Each new file he decoded showed more of the council's true plans. Humanity wasn't just facing quarantine. They were facing extinction. "Captain," Wilson said, his voice tight. "You need to see this. It's not just about us. The Council, they've done this before, many times, and no species they targeted ever survived." Barnes looked at the main screen, where the Council ships drifted silently. "Well," she said quietly, "then it's time someone changed that. Send everything to Earth Command. All of it." The battle was over, but Captain Barnes knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had won its first fight against the Council, but the real war was just starting. And this time, extinction wasn't an option. Chief Engineer Robert Hayes hadn't slept in 3 days. His workshop aboard the UES Thunderchild was covered in holographic projections and scattered parts. Coffee cups littered every surface, but he barely noticed them anymore. He was too focused on the alien shield generator they'd salvaged from the disabled Council ships. "Come on, you beautiful piece of junk," he muttered, connecting another wire. "Show me your secrets." The door slid open, and Captain Barnes walked in. She looked at the mess and raised an eyebrow. "Tell me you found something worth all this chaos." Hayes grinned and wiped his hands on his already stained uniform. "Captain, I'm about to make your day." He pointed to the strange device on his workbench. "Their shields aren't actually better than ours. They're just different. They work on a frequency we never thought to use. But now..." He pressed a button, and a small energy beam shot across the room. It passed straight through the test shield he'd set up. "Did that just..." Barnes stepped closer. "Yes, Mom. Their impenetrable defense has a weakness. We can go right through it." Hayes picked up a tablet. "I've designed a modification for our weapons. The Council won't know what hit them." The ship's intercom crackled. "Captain to the bridge. Emergency." Barnes and Hayes rushed to the bridge. Lieutenant Wilson was at his station, his face pale. "Multiple Council ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel near New Montana Colony. They're demanding we turn over all SHIELD research data." How did they know? Barnes wondered aloud. The answer came in the form of an explosion 2 decks below. Security alarms blared throughout the ship. "Intruders in engineering." John Reynolds, the security chief, shouted over the comm. "They're after Hayes' research. Lock down everything." Barnes ordered. She turned to Hayes. "Get to your lab. Save what you can." Hayes ran, his heart pounding. He rounded a corner and found 2 dead security officers. Further down the hall, 3 figures in sleek armor were trying to break into his lab. "Hey!" he shouted without thinking. The figures turned, their alien faces hidden behind dark visors. They raised their weapons. Hayes dove behind a support beam as energy bolts scorched the wall behind him. He pulled out his emergency pistol, but he knew he was outmatched. Suddenly, heavy footsteps came from behind him. Security Chief Reynolds and his team charged in, their weapons blazing. The aliens took cover, returning fire. "Get to your lab," Reynolds shouted to Hayes. "We'll hold them." Hayes ran, keeping low. Inside his lab, he quickly activated the emergency deletion protocol. As his computer wiped itself, he grabbed the prototype shield penetrator and the most important components. An energy bolt hit him in the shoulder, spinning him around. One of the aliens had broken through. Hayes fell, clutching the prototype to his chest. The alien raised its weapon for the kill shot. The alien's head suddenly exploded in a spray of blue liquid. Captain Barnes stood in the doorway, her rifle smoking. "Nobody messes with my crew." Back on the bridge, the situation was getting worse. The Council ships had opened fire on the colony, trying to force the Thunderchild to surrender. "Admiral Morrison is on the line," Wilson reported. The Admiral's face appeared on screen. Her expression was grim. "Captain Barnes, we've received similar reports from 3 other colonies. The Council is making its move." She paused. "You have my authorization to use Hayes' new technology. Show them why it's a bad idea to threaten humanity." Barnes nodded. Gladly. She turned to her crew. "Install the prototype. All weapons." Despite his injured shoulder, Hayes supervised the installation from engineering. Within 20 minutes, the Thunderchild was ready. "Target their lead ship," Barnes ordered. "Let's give them a demonstration." The Thunderchild's main gun fired. The beam passed straight through the Council ship's shields like they weren't even there. The alien vessel's engine section exploded, leaving it dead in space. "Open a channel," Barnes commanded. When the alien commander appeared, she smiled coldly. "That was a warning. You have 1 minute to retreat, or we'll do the same to every ship in your fleet. And tell your Council masters, Earth doesn't respond well to threats." The Council ships fled, leaving their damaged leader behind. Wilson looked up from his console. "Captain, Admiral Morrison is asking for a full report. She says Earth's governments are uniting under something called the Emergency Defense Protocol." Barnes watched the crippled Council ship on her screen. "Tell her we're ready. The Council just learned something important today." She turned to face her crew. "Nobody threatens humanity's children and gets away with it. Not anymore." In engineering, Hayes looked at his wounded shoulder and then at the prototype weapon. "Well," he said to himself, "I guess now we really are at war." The grand meeting hall of the Galactic Council was silent as High Counselor Zixthar's hologram appeared before the UES Thunderchild's bridge crew. His 4 eyes glowed with barely controlled rage. "You primitive, violent species," he snarled. "You dare to attack Council ships. You dare to develop weapons against us." His upper eyes narrowed. "Surrender now, and perhaps we will only imprison your leaders instead of ending your entire species." Captain Emily Barnes stood calmly before the projection. "You attacked our colonies first. You tried to steal our technology. You killed our people. And now you threaten us with extinction." In the corner of the bridge, Diplomatic Officer Lisa Cooper worked quickly at her station, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The Council's transmission was complex, carrying hidden data streams. While Zixthar spoke, she dug deeper into these secret channels. "Captain," Cooper whispered urgently, "I'm finding something in their transmission. Records. So many records." Barnes kept her eyes on Zixthar, but nodded slightly. Cooper continued her work while the Council leader listed humanity's crimes. "You have 24 Earth hours to surrender," Zixthar concluded. "After that, we will show you why species far greater than yours have vanished from the galaxy." As soon as the transmission ended, Cooper jumped from her station. "Captain, you need to see this immediately." The main screen filled with ancient records, all decoded from the Council's transmission. Cooper pointed to file after file. "They've done this before, over and over. Any species that grows too fast, develops too quickly, or shows too much military strength, they eliminate them." The bridge crew watched in horror as Cooper showed them the proof. The peaceful Arcturians, wiped out by an engineered virus. The clever Zorn, whose sun mysteriously went supernova. The warrior Krill, who simply vanished after refusing to disarm their fleets. 17 species, Cooper said quietly, all eliminated because the Council saw them as threats. Captain Barnes touched her command chair, her knuckles white. "Send everything to Earth Command. Now." Within an hour, Admiral Kate Morrison called back. Her face was grim on the screen. "We've reviewed the evidence. Every Earth government has voted. We're done playing nice." She looked directly at Barnes. "The Emergency Defense Protocol is now active. All Earth ships are being armed with Hayes shield penetrator technology." "What are our orders?" Barnes asked. "We're taking the fight to them," Morrison replied. "The Thunderchild has been chosen for a special mission. You'll receive the details on a secure channel. But I warn you, it's practically a suicide run." Barnes smiled. "Those are my favorite kind." After the Admiral signed off, Barnes gathered her senior staff in the tactical room. The holographic display showed their target, the Council's central stronghold, deep in their space. "This is crazy," Lieutenant Wilson said, looking at the massive station on display. "That place is meant to be impenetrable, the most heavily defended location in the galaxy." "Which is why we'll be the last thing they expect," Barnes replied. She turned to Engineer Hayes. "How many ships can your shield penetrator handle?" Hayes rubbed his healing shoulder. "With the improvements I've made, all of them. But we'll have to get close." "Getting close is my specialty," said Brian Foster, their navigation officer. He pointed to several spots on the map. "These nebula can hide our approach. They won't see us coming until it's too late." Barnes looked at each of her crew members. "I won't lie. This mission is extremely dangerous. But if we don't stop the Council now, humanity will be next on their list of extinct species. I'm asking for volunteers only." Lisa Cooper stood first. "My sister was on the New Hope colony when they attacked. I'm in." One by one, every officer volunteered. Barnes felt pride swell in her chest. This was why humanity would win. Not because of their weapons or technology, but because of their spirit. "Very well," she said. "We leave in 6 hours. Engineer Hayes, I want those weapons at full power. Lieutenant Wilson, study every bit of data we have on their defenses. Officer Cooper, find us any allies you can among the species they threatened." As her crew rushed to prepare, Barnes looked at the hologram of the Council stronghold. Soon, those arrogant aliens would learn what happened when you backed humans into a corner. They didn't give up. They didn't surrender. They fought back. And they won. "Prepare for battle stations," she ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy why you don't threaten Earth." The UES Thunderchild drifted silently through the purple clouds of the Serpent Nebula. On the bridge, Navigation Officer Brian Foster's hands moved carefully over his controls, guiding the massive warship like it was a small boat. "Another Council patrol," Lieutenant Wilson whispered, even though the enemy couldn't hear them. 3 ships, coming from the right. Captain Barnes watched the enemy ships on the main screen. The Council vessels passed by, their sensors unable to spot the Thunderchild in the thick gases of the nebula. "That's the 5th patrol," Maria Suarez said from her tactical station. "They're definitely nervous about something." They had been traveling for 2 weeks, moving deeper into Council space. Engineer Hayes' newest invention kept their energy signature hidden, making the ship look like nothing more than a cloud of space dust. "Captain," Wilson called out suddenly, "I'm picking up a distress signal. Very weak." Barnes frowned. They couldn't risk being spotted, but she wouldn't ignore someone who needed help. "Source: small ship hiding in an asteroid field ahead." "It's..." Wilson's eyes widened. "It's from the Krell, the warrior species that disappeared." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew about the Krell, one of the species the Council had supposedly wiped out. "Take us in," Barnes ordered. Carefully, Foster guided the Thunderchild through the asteroid field. They found a small ship, badly damaged, hiding behind a large rock. "Life signs?" Barnes asked. 6, Wilson reported. "They're alive, but their life support is failing." Barnes made her decision. "Bring them aboard. Medical team to Shuttle Bay." The rescue went quickly. 6 tall, gray-skinned aliens were brought to the medical bay. Their leader, a female named Qatar, told them their story as Dr. Linda Baker treated their wounds. "We are the last," Qatar said, her voice rough with emotion. "When the Council came, most of our people fought and died. But some of us hid. We've been running ever since, looking for allies." "How long?" Barnes asked. 20 years. Carr looked down. "The Council's weapons, they can destroy entire planets, turn suns into weapons. We were strong, but they were stronger." Hayes, who had come up from engineering, spoke up. "Maybe not anymore." He showed Qatar the shield penetrator. "We found a way through their defenses." Qatar's yellow eyes widened. You've broken their shields." "No one has ever." She stood up suddenly. "Captain, we can help you. We know their stations, their patrol routes. We've been watching them for years, looking for a chance to strike back." Barnes smiled. "We're heading for their central stronghold, the heart of order." Qatar laughed, a harsh sound. "You humans are either very brave or very crazy." She paused. Perhaps both, but with your technology and our knowledge. Her eyes gleamed with hope for the first time in years. Over the next few days, Car's information proved invaluable. She showed them hidden routes through Council space, ways to avoid their strongest patrols. There, Foster said one day, pointing to a spot on the star map. That's our best path to the Stronghold, through the darkness rift. Wilson looked worried. That's a quantum storm field. Ships don't survive in there. Council ships don't, Qatar corrected. But we Krell learned its secrets. Your ship is strong enough. We can guide you through. As they prepared to enter the darkness rift, Barnes gathered her crew. This is our most dangerous move yet. If anyone wants to stay behind with the escape pods, now's the time. Nobody moved. The Council took everything from us. Qatar said, let us help you make them pay. Barnes nodded. Tactical, weapons ready. Engineering, full power to shields. Navigation, take us in. The Thunderchild entered the quantum storm. Strange energies flashed around them. The ship shook, but held together. Qatar guided them, calling out safe paths through the chaos. Council ships ahead. Wilson shouted. They're running from the storm. Let them go, Barnes ordered. They'll never expect us to come this way. That's our advantage. Through the lightning and darkness of the quantum storm, the Thunderchild pushed forward. They were getting closer to the heart of Council space. Soon, they would show these aliens that humanity wasn't just another species to be erased. They were the species that would end the Council's reign of terror once and for all. Look, Qatar said, pointing ahead. Through the storm, they could see it, the massive shape of the Council's central stronghold, the heart of order. Barnes gripped her chair. Battle stations. This is where we make history. Security Chief John Reynolds couldn't believe his eyes. What started as a meeting with Qatar had turned into something much bigger. The Thunderchild's largest conference room was now filled with holographic projections of representatives from 6 different alien species, all victims of the Council's oppression. You're not alone, said a floating green crystal being, its voice translated by the ship's computers. We, the Luminary, were forced underground when we refused to give up our light-bending technology. The Council killed half our population, added a reptilian creature with 4 arms. We, the Scari, survive only in hidden bases between the stars. Captain Barnes stood at the center of the room, her face lit by the various holographic lights. Then today, we fight back together. Security Chief Reynolds stepped forward with his tablet. I've analyzed the information from all your species. The Council's stronghold has 7 layers of defenses, but working together. He brought up a large hologram of the heart of order. The massive space station spun slowly, showing its weak points. The Luminary can bend scanner beams around our ship, Reynolds explained. The Scari know the patrol schedules. The Krell understand their weapon systems. And he smiled, we can punch right through their shields. Engineer Hayes, his arm now fully healed, spoke up from his station. I've been working with Qatar to modify our shield penetrator. It's now 10 times stronger. But we need more than weapons, Barnes said. We need a distraction. She turned to Lisa Cooper. What did you find in the Council's communication networks? Cooper stepped into the light, her eyes bright with excitement. The Council is holding their high assembly in 3 days. Every major leader will be there. They're gathering to decide humanity's punishment. Perfect timing, Barnes said with a grim smile. They want to judge us. Let's crash their party. The alien representatives shared looks of approval. The luminary crystal pulsed brighter. We will position our ships here, here, and here. 3 points lit up on the map. When you attack, we will reveal ourselves and strike from behind. The Scari warriors will board with you, the reptilian leader added. We have waited generations for this chance. Qatar stepped forward, her gray skin gleaming. The Krell will lead the first wave. We know their internal defenses best. Reynolds brought up detailed schematics of the station's interior. Our primary target is their central control room, but we also need to secure their data cores. The evidence of their crimes against all species must be revealed to the galaxy. For the next several hours, they planned every detail. Each species had a role, each warrior a purpose. The Thunderchild would be the spear's tip, but they were no longer alone in their fight. "One more thing," Barnes said as the meeting was ending. She looked at each alien representative. "After we win, things will change. No more council tyranny. No more extinction of species. We'll need to build something better. A true alliance." The luminary agreed, glowing softly. "Not built on fear, but on respect. The strong protecting the weak," Katar added. "As it should be." As the holograms faded one by one, Reynolds stayed behind with Barnes. "It's almost poetic," he said. "The council tried to keep species apart, afraid we'd be stronger together. Instead, they created their own worst nightmare, a united force against them." Speaking of nightmares, Barnes turned to Hayes. "Is our surprise ready?" Hayes grinned and brought up a new hologram. It showed a modification to the Thunderchild's main gun. "We're not just going to break their shields," he said. "When this is done, their precious heart of order will be nothing but space dust." "How long until we're ready?" Barnes asked. 6 hours, Hayes replied. "The Luminary's crystal technology helped solve our power problem. One shot is all we'll need." Barnes looked out the conference room window at the quantum storm still raging around them. Beyond it lay the Council's stronghold, its arrogant leaders unaware of what was coming. "Send word to all our allies," she ordered. "The attack begins in 8 hours. Today, we end the Council's reign of terror." Reynolds watched the crew hurry to their stations, aliens and humans working side by side. The Council had tried to stamp out aggressive species, fearing their potential for violence. Instead, they had created something much more dangerous, a coalition of survivors, united by a common cause. And at its head, humanity's most powerful warship, ready to deliver justice. The hunt for order was about to begin its final chapter. "All hands, battle stations." Captain Barnes's voice rang through the UES Thunderchild as the massive warship burst from the quantum storm. Behind them, dozens of hidden ships appeared. Luminary lightbenders, Krell war vessels, and scary strike crafts. The Council's heart of order loomed before them, a massive space station shaped like a giant metal flower. Its petals were actually massive weapon platforms, all now turning to face the unexpected threat. "They're scrambling their fleet," Wilson reported from his station. "Picking up 50. No, 60 Council ships launching." Barnes stood at the center of her bridge, calm despite the chaos. "Send the signal." Across Council space, hundreds of resistance ships dropped their cloaking devices. The oppressed species had hidden for years, waiting for this moment. Now they struck from every direction. "Council command channel is open," Cooper announced. "They're demanding we stand down." High Counselor Zixthar's hologram appeared, all 4 eyes wide with shock. "How dare you bring these criminals to our sacred space? You humans have gone too far." "No," Barnes replied coldly. "You went too far when you decided to kill entire species." She nodded to Hayes. "Show them what humanity does to tyrants." The Thunderchild's main gun fired. The enhanced shield penetrator beam struck the station's outer defenses. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the supposedly impenetrable shields flickered and died. "Their shields are down," Maria shouted from tactical. "All ships, attack pattern Delta." The space around the heart of order erupted in battle. Luminary ships bent light around themselves, appearing and disappearing like ghosts as they struck. Krell warriors charged straight in, their ancient blood rage awakened. Scary vessels darted between larger ships, their precision strikes hitting vital systems. And through it all, the Thunderchild pushed forward, its weapons clearing a path toward the station. "Enemy ships on our tail," Wilson warned. "Let me handle this," Foster said from navigation. His hands flew across the controls, making the massive warship dance between enemy fire. The Council ships couldn't match his skill. Boarding parties ready, Reynolds reported from the shuttle bay. He stood with Qatar and a mixed group of human and alien warriors. "We're going in hot." The Thunderchild's side doors opened. Boarding shuttles launched, protected by the ship's guns. Council fighters tried to stop them, but resistance ships swarmed in to defend the attackers. Direct hit on their main weapon array. Maria called out as another of the Thunderchild's shots struck home. "They're hurt, Captain." Inside the station, alarms blared as the boarding parties breached the hull. Reynolds led his team through the corridors, Tar at his side. Council security forces tried to stop them, but the combined might of human determination and Krell warrior skill was unstoppable. "This way," Tar shouted, leading them toward the central control room. "The High Assembly is in session. All the council leaders are here." Back on the Thunderchild's bridge, Barnes watched the battle unfold. The council's mighty fleet was in chaos. They had never faced a united opposition before. Their arrogance had left them unprepared. "Captain," Hayes called from engineering, "the main gun is charged for the killing blow. But we need to get closer." "Foster," Barnes ordered, "take us in, right down their throat." The Thunderchild charged forward, its guns blazing. Council ships scattered before it. The massive station grew larger on their screen. "Boarding teams have reached the central chamber," Wilson reported. "Reynolds is sending video feed." The bridge crew watched as their security chief and his alien allies burst into the High Assembly room. Dozens of council leaders stared in shock as their guards fell before the combined assault. "In the name of humanity and all species you've oppressed," Reynolds' voice came through clearly, "you are under arrest." "Now, Captain," Hayes shouted, "we're in position." Barnes stood, her eyes fixed on the station's central core. "For all the species you destroyed," she said quietly. "Fire." The Thunderchild's enhanced main gun fired one last time. The beam struck the heart of Order's core. This time, Hayes' modifications showed their full power. The station's mighty reactor began to overload. "All boarding parties, return now," Barnes ordered. "All ships, clear the blast zone." As evacuation shuttles streamed from the dying station, the Council's leaders were led in chains to the Thunderchild's break. Their reign of terror was ending, not with a whimper, but with the roar of their own power turned against them. "It's over," Qatar said as she watched from the bridge. After all these years, Barnes put a hand on the Krell warrior's shoulder. "No, old friend. It's just beginning." The heart of Order exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The mighty station that had symbolized the Council's power for thousands of years became nothing more than dust and debris floating in space. On the Thunderchild's bridge, humans and aliens watched in silence. "Broadcast ready, Captain," Lisa Cooper said from her station. "We're linked to every communication network in Council space." Captain Barnes nodded. "Send it." Across thousands of worlds, regular broadcasts stopped. Instead, screens showed the truth about the Council. Records of genocide, proof of their crimes, and videos of their defeat played everywhere. Cooper had prepared the message carefully, showing both the Council's cruelty and their downfall. "Council ships are surrendering all over the galaxy," Wilson reported, his voice filled with wonder. "Their fleet commanders are standing down. I'm getting reports from at least 50 major systems." Tara stood beside Barnes, her warrior's face showing rare emotion. "After 20 years of hiding, my people can finally come home." The luminary representative glowed brightly. "The Council's grip is broken. Now we must ensure nothing like this ever happens again." Barnes turned to the captured Council leaders, who stood under guard on the bridge. High Counselor Zixthar had lost all his arrogance. His 4 eyes looked down at the deck. "You could kill us," he said quietly. "After what we did to so many species, you have the right." "No," Barnes replied firmly. "We're not like you. There will be trials. Justice, not revenge." She looked at her alien allies. We'll build something better. Together. 3 months later, the Thunderchild floated above Earth. The ship had been repaired, its battle scars worn proudly. In the large conference room, representatives from 20 species gathered. Some were survivors of Council oppression. Others were races that had feared to oppose the Council before. Admiral Kate Morrison stood at the head of the table. The Alliance Charter is ready for signing. Each species will have an equal voice. The strong will protect the weak. And no one will ever be erased again. One by one, the representatives signed. When it was humanity's turn, Barnes stepped forward as Earth's chosen delegate. "We were lucky," she said to the gathered aliens. "The Council attacked us while we were strong enough to fight back. Many of you didn't have that chance." She signed the document. "This alliance will be different. We'll face our challenges together." Engineer Hayes, now working on sharing his shield technology with other species, smiled from his seat. "You know what's funny? The Council feared violent species. They tried to destroy everyone who could fight. Instead, they created the strongest fighting force the galaxy has ever seen." Speaking of fighting, Security Chief Reynolds added, "The trials are going well. Most of the Council leaders have confessed. Their victims are finally getting justice." The Thunderchild's crew watched as more ships arrived for the signing ceremony. Krill warships flew alongside luminary lightbenders. Scary vessels danced between massive human carriers. Former enemies now worked together, protecting the peace they had won. "Captain," Wilson called from his station. "Long-range sensors show another group of ships approaching. It's the Centauri. We thought they were extinct." Barnes smiled. "More survivors, coming out of hiding." She turned to Tar. "Your people aren't alone anymore. None of us are." Tar nodded. "The Council feared our strength, but they never understood the true meaning of strength." She looked at the human crew. "It's not about weapons or technology. It's about standing together, fighting for what's right." As the ceremony ended, Barnes stood at the Thunderchild's main window. Earth shone below them, beautiful and blue. Around her ship, the combined fleet of the new alliance patrolled. Former victims had become protectors. Former enemies had become friends. "Message from Alliance Command," Cooper reported. "They're asking if the Thunderchild is ready for its new mission." "Oh," Barnes raised an eyebrow. "And what would that be?" "Exploration," Cooper grinned. "There are parts of the galaxy the Council kept hidden. Who knows what other survivors might be out there? What other friends we might find." Barnes looked at her crew, human and alien alike. They had faced impossible odds together. They had won. But more importantly, they had built something worth protecting. "Set course," she ordered. "Let's see what's out there." The Thunderchild turned gracefully and jumped to faster than light speed. Behind it, Earth and the Alliance fleet sparkled in space. The Council had tried to divide the galaxy through fear. Instead, they had united it through courage. Humanity had taken its place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as defenders of a simple truth. Together, they were stronger than any force that tried to tear them apart. The adventure was just beginning.